Hey guys, how's it going? Justin here with Practically Squared. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, what I wanted to bring you guys is a little bit of an update on my PRS rig. So for those of you guys who maybe haven't quite been following along or maybe are new to the channel, I made a couple different videos talking about this rifle. I originally had it built right after the 2022 PRS finale concluded. That following week, my gunsmith spun up the barrel and pieced all the stuff together, and I filmed a video on it. Around February, March-ish timeframe, I made some changes and I made an updated video on that. And today I'm here to bring you guys yet again another update because I made some other changes. And I just kind of wanted to talk about some of the gear that I've been running and my thoughts and opinions on it and stuff like that. But before we get any further, I want to hit you guys with a little bit of a disclosure here. So by no means am I doing this video because I'm a pro level shooter or anything like that. I'm just a simple guy. I got into PRS this season. I've probably got bit by the bug about as bad as you can. I've shot 5 two-day Pro Series matches and 5 one-day regional matches, and I still have a ton of more matches on the books. I'm probably going to shoot 2 or 3 more Pro Series matches and at least 4 or 5 more one-day regional matches, as well as I've been doing a lot of KYL long-range shooting competitions and stuff like that. So I'm pretty serious about this stuff. I'm pretty passionate about this stuff, and I want to bring more people into it. I feel like there's not a lot of good information out there on YouTube. There's the 4Gun guy. He makes some really good content. And then there's also a guy named Design Hunter, and he makes some really cool content. And I just kind of wanted to add to it. I wanted to make some really cool content. The PRS themselves, they have a really cool YouTube channel if you want to head over there. Ken's doing awesome work with the PRS this year, and I'm excited to be a part of it, right? So talking about the rifle, I think we should first start off talking about what stayed the same, what I've been running this entire time. And that's the majority of this rifle, if I'm being completely honest. So first, let's get into talking about what stayed the same. And what stayed the same is pretty much the majority of this rifle, right? So we'll start off at the heart of it. We'll talk about the action. I'm running the Impact 737 action, and I'm absolutely in love with this action. If you walk up and down the firing line of pretty much any PRS match, you're going to find a lot of impacts for good reason. They're awesome, awesome actions. I also really am impressed with the Lone Peak Fusion, and I've played around with some of the Defiances, and they make really good stuff as well. There's tons of good actions out there. Those are the 3 that I would suggest looking into, but the Impact is super, super happy, and if I build another rig or a backup rig, I'm definitely getting an Impact for it. Talking about the barrel stayed the same. However, I am near the end of the life expectancy of this barrel. This is a Hawk Hill M24 profile barrel. It's cut to 26 inches and chambered in 6mm BR by Ryan Beck over at Basecamp Customs. If you're not familiar with Ryan Beck is tearing it up in the Northeast. I believe he's won 4 or maybe 5 one-day regional PRS matches, and he's been at a lot of the tops of the charts as far as the 2-day matches that he's went to too. He's a hell of a shooter and a super awesome gunsmith and become a good friend of mine, if I'm being honest. And this barrel is absolutely hammered, but I do have about 2,300 rounds on this barrel. I expect to maybe run it in a couple more one-day regional matches, and then I'm probably going to have to pull it. But it's performed pretty well. I'm running the Area 419 Hellfire Match muzzle brake out on the end. It's worked really good. Taking a minute to talk about the scope setup, the American Rifle Company Embrace mount with the Leupold Mark V 7-35 with the PR2 reticle in it. Super, super happy with that setup. The Leupold 7-35 has worked awesome. I'll be completely honest. If you guys are new to PRS, you're probably not going to use that 35 power much, except for maybe zeroing or doing different stuff like that. Most of the time at matches, I'm running like 16 to 19 power, give or take. If I'm shooting an up close mover, I might dial it down a little further. If I'm running, most stages that are like 400 to 600 yards or so, I'm probably going to be in that like 16 to 18. If we're shooting a long range stage, I might dial up to 19 or even 20. But generally, I run about there. That way, I have the good field of view and I could get on target quick and not time out quite as much. But the Leupold scope has worked absolutely amazing. I've never had an issue with it so far. I love the PR2 reticle, and the Embrace mount has held up really, really good, and I'm impressed with it. There's one more thing that we got to talk about as far as stuff that stayed the same, and it's going to be my trigger. I'm running the Bixen Andy Tac Sport. This is the 2-stage model. I have kind of tweaked with it and adjusted it a little bit. Right now, I have it set to basically be like a really quick first stage, just enough to make you think about it, and then it breaks. So I'm able to run this really quick, but I get the advantages of that 2-stage trigger where I feel a little more comfortable running it lighter and don't have to worry about, getting an AD or something like that. So that's all the stuff that stayed the same. Now let's talk about the stuff that's changed. So now we should probably talk about what I've changed. And we'll kind of go in depth on this stuff, but just real quickly to hit on what I've changed. Obviously, this chassis is different. We'll talk more about the chassis. I've had this gun, this action, and 3 different chassis this season so far. And I'm kind of trying to figure out what I like, what my preferences are, all that stuff. We'll talk more about it here in a minute. The only other things that I've changed, I added the MDT Send It level, and I absolutely love that thing. I still have the bubble level that's on my ARC M brace mount, and it's good, especially if I'm shooting really tiny targets in like a KYL or something. I'll look up and stare at the bubble. But the nice thing about the Send It, once you get used to it, once you train with it, I'm able to pick it up out of my peripheral vision. And I'm able to basically focus on the target and focus on down range. And out of the corner of my eye, I'm able to pick up that green light, or if it's red or if it's blue, and I need to adjust the can. So it's enabled me to speed up a little bit. And also that bubble level, it has a certain amount of like, it takes time for it to adjust, whereas the Send It level is almost instant. Now, it is one extra thing to worry about batteries for, and I definitely recommend if you get one of these, have a couple spare batteries in your pack, because I have had this die on me at a match. Shout out to Francis Cologne for hooking me up with a battery and helping me out there. It was awesome. But make sure you have some spare batteries. That should go without being said. I was unprepared, and Francis bailed me out of that situation. But nonetheless, the MDT Send It, I've started running that. And then out at the end here, the MDT SkyPod. This is the double pull SkyPod. I switched to it. I actually carry 3 bipods with me now. I carry the AccuTac FD4, which is the fast deploy. We'll probably be doing a video on it in the near future. I carry an old Harris. I think the Harris is good for if you need to get on a prop and you need a skinnier profile, the Harris works really good. And then the double pull SkyPod is what I run the majority of the time. I shoot a lot at ranges like MKM Precision. And up at MKM Precision, we have a rooftop stage that you almost have to have a SkyPod to shoot it. And obviously you could borrow other people's gear, but I used enough other people's SkyPods in matches and learned how awesome they were that I finally decided to bite the bullet and pick up my own. These things definitely aren't cheap, but they're definitely awesome. Look forward to a full video covering the SkyPod in the future. I did a little short video talking about it in the past. But let's get back to the chassis, because that's pretty much all that we've changed. We've covered everything on this. So why did I switch to the Matrix Pro, and what do I like about it? Well, the first thing I'll say, I won this Matrix Pro at the Pig River Precision 2-day Pro Series match. So I went down there and I shot pretty good day 1, didn't really shoot good day 2, kind of had some issues with my dope and different stuff. But at the end of the match, they did a raffle and I ended up getting chosen, and I won this Matrix Pro chassis. And for those of you guys unaware, maybe some of you guys caught in my first video on this rifle build, I started out with the Masterpiece Arms Matrix. And the Matrix was a good chassis system, don't get me wrong, but the things that I didn't like about it were the fact that it was so light in the fore end and so heavy in the rear end that in order to get it to balance properly, at least with my setup, I had to run the full internal weights and a set of full external weights. And it ended up making the rifle like 25, 26 pounds. And me being relatively new to PRS, I just wasn't used to running that heavy of a rifle. And if I took any of the weights out of it, it didn't balance as good. So I ran that in a couple of KYL belly prone style matches. And then I ended up switching and I ended up buying an MDT ACC. And I ran the ACC in pretty much all the matches up until recently. And I had really, really good luck with the ACC. However, being that I was fortunate enough to win this Matrix Pro, I decided to give it a try, and I've actually started to really like this chassis. The Matrix, as I said, was a really good chassis, the original Matrix, but the improvements that they made on this Pro, I feel, are really, really nice. One of the big things that they did was they lightened the buttstock portion of it, and they also added a little bit of weight out front. The fore end on the Matrix Pro is going to be wider now. It has M-LOK in it, but you're going to need proprietary external weights. I do have the aluminum Gray Ops external weights, and I'm mainly just putting them in there. That way I have the QD sockets, which we'll talk more about here in a minute. But they made the fore end wider, they made the fore end heavier, they made it sturdier. And the butt end here, they opened up the thumb hole, which is a good thing in my opinion, because the original Matrix, you couldn't get your thumb through there, and you're not really supposed to put your thumb through there to shoot. You're supposed to put it on the thumb shelf. But whenever you're standing there pre-stage, getting ready for the beep to go off, sometimes I like to put my thumb through there just to control the weight of the rifle and stuff. And with the Matrix Pro, they opened it up so you're able to do it much easier, get your thumb through there to support the rifle. And also, as I said, it lightened up the rear end of the stock a good bit. Now, one of the other really unique things talking about the stock on the Matrix Pro is they have this spring-loaded bag rider that's actually pretty sweet. So if you're in position and you don't have enough rear bag, your bipod's set a little too high or whatever, you're just going to push this button and it's going to extend out, which is really nice. That's going to give you a good bit of position there to get yourself up and make a more stable shot. And it could stop at several different points along the way. It has some detents built into it. But it is a really, really sweet system, really, really sweet setup. And I decided, since I want it, to give it a try. I feel like the advantages of the Matrix, all the things that I loved about it, the fact that it feels dead whenever you shoot it. I really like the trigger spacer system over here on the other side. It pushes your finger out, and I feel like I get a more consistent index point on the pad of my trigger. And therefore, I tend to get a little bit more consistent trigger presses with a chassis like this over something like my ACC. Now, don't get me wrong, the ACC is a great chassis, and I really, really enjoyed it. But the Matrix is just super dead whenever you shoot it. And that trigger spacer system, I really do like it. And then overall, just the feel of the Matrix, I really, really like it. I think there's a lot of advantages to it. A lot of guys will run plates to get wider, to get more support. With the Matrix Pro, you can still obviously run a plate. It has the Arca rail on the bottom and the spigot out front. But it's wide enough to where a lot of times, if you're a guy that's going to like to run a plate all the time, a chassis like this is going to make you not have to run that plate quite as much because of how wide it actually is. Now, it being wider does take a little bit of getting used to, but for the most part so far, I've been pretty impressed with it. So I talked about my original Matrix chassis. I needed the full internals and the full externals to get it to balance good. And this rig pretty much being the same as far as, you know, the barrel, the action, the scope, all that stuff. To get this thing to balance good, I needed 5 of the optional 8 internal weights. So just over half the internal weights I put in here. And it balances really good. It'll sit on a prop. You can walk away from it just right here in front of the mag well. And then I'm also going to be adding, I ordered the Gray Ops aluminum external weights. I just ordered them today, so they're going to be coming in. And I'm not really adding those weights to add weight to the rifle per se. The aluminum ones don't add much, but I more so just want to get more QD cups on the edge here because I ran this in some matches and I really need something on the side here to kind of push against to drive the rifle. So I'm going to add those. That way I could go with a Sykes clutch. So that'll give me the ability to control this rifle a little bit better. I do tend in some lower positions, I'll back off a little bit and almost free recoil. And being able to drive with my support hand allows me to do that and still be able to spot stuff. So that's mainly why I'm adding that. Now, I've covered a lot about the Matrix Pro, but in the future, I do plan on releasing a full video talking about the Matrix Pro. Hopefully, this will get your noodle a little bit wet. And if you guys are interested in Matrix Pro, maybe you learned a little bit from today's video. But essentially, this is how I have my PRS rifle set up. And if something changes, I'm sure I'll give you guys an update. But I plan on trying not to change a lot more. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, definitely feel free to give us a subscribe. If you haven't already, hit the like button, all that stuff. I appreciate all the support. If you guys want to, head over to Instagram. It's at Practically Squared on Instagram. I try to post behind the scenes content over there. I don't post as much YouTube videos anymore. As always, remember to train hard, shoot fast, and most importantly, be safe. God bless.